Middle cough.
Got hear me?
All right. This is another one of those four espresso shots before the show days for me. I'm just warning you, middle cough. Warning.
Were you able to find the Starbucks sugar-free, cream-free?
No, the sugar, the light cream with the light blue at the top. I have not been able to find it in a long time.
Out all over America. I order usually 12 packs, not 12 packs, 24 packs. So I get four packs delivered to my. That doesn't even add up, but I get a lot delivered through Amazon.
Yeah.
They're back ordered right now, like 3 weeks. I went to Safeway yesterday. They're all out. It's just supply chain, man. I need those, cream-free Starbucks shooters.
I know. They taste just as good as the full cream. But you know what the key is? You've got to bribe somebody at the port. That's what it takes in times like these.
I would do that.
You got to get a port guy. And your port guy is going to want $50K to unload the Starbucks boat.
What impacts my whole bodily flow. Because Keurig sometimes doesn't have that same pop. I had to go to 7-Eleven today to get a sugar-free Mountain Dew. I mean, it's just I like that Starbucks drink.
Yikes!
Not sugar-free. Is it sugar-free? Just diet Mountain Dew. It just has a lot of caffeine.
That's a hell of an audible there.
Well, it just gives me a lot of caffeine. I'm not a big energy drink guy, so I don't really want like an iced coffee. Already had a couple cups of just Keurigs that I think we could question the amount of caffeine in a Keurig cup.
Yeah.
It's questionable.
It is questionable. Yeah, the Mountain Dew, that is a hell of a curveball, though.
Yeah, just, it's like a football coach move. It's like afternoon, early in the season that you're just coffeeed out, but you need some pop. And just the diet Mountain Dew. It says 0 calories, so you feel good about yourself.
Mountain Dew takes you back. Jalen Hurts probably understands the difference between, getting your regular flow from a Starbucks and your Keurig kind of punch. Jalen Hurts is on team me, by the way. We talked about this a while ago, right? Do you check or do you not check?
You check.
Yeah, most people, it's a health check, John. It's a health check. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. You can, on YouTube, like the video if you're here or if you're watching it later. We would appreciate if you like the channel or like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's great. We also have a podcast. If you're listening to that podcast, then go do the YouTube thing. If you're watching the YouTube, check out the podcast, which is linked in the description below. Either thing is linked in the other thing. So.
Yeah, it's all linked. Also on the podcast, if you listen on Apple or iTunes, which I know many of you do because we see the analytical breakdown. It's like, I think on every podcast, it's like well over 90+%. Leave a review, and we appreciate it. Leave a review, and in that review, ask a question. Questions, not just comments like we love you guys, or I hate you guys, or I love food that you recommended. Leave a question, anything. It doesn't even have to be sports related, though most tend to be. Leave a question. You can also the Facebook page, Haberman Middlecoff. Facebook, Zuckerberg has this little thing. You automatically gets... the podcast gets loaded, and if you are working at your desk, it's pretty easy. You just press play, so it's very simple. We get credit there too. So use it.
Sorry, I'm just laughing. When you said Facebook, you made me think of, I saw this story today that it was like this internal memo from the Facebook people as they're trying to figure out why kids don't use the Facebook chat feature during play dates more. They want kids to use the Facebook chat feature. But they don't know. They're trying to figure out why kids don't use the Facebook chat feature more. Apparently, their research says who they chat during play dates is other friends who aren't at the play date or their parents. But what they want is for the kids to chat the other kids at their play date, according to the internal memo. I couldn't quite figure out what it is they thought kids were going to do during play dates, or if they're aware of what play date is. But
I think if more information came out about some internal memos at some of these tech companies, people would be a little like, whoa, that's pretty nuts, is it not?
I would love a book. We should do a book where all it is just internal memos.
Wall Street Journal's had some, I think they got a whistleblower at Facebook because they've had a couple kind of explosive articles about some internal memos coming out of the old Facebook,
Nonetheless, we're there, so you can go check.
Yeah,
out
I
our
enjoy it. I enjoy it.
stuff.
Enjoy would be strong. I consume. I use it. I scroll it a couple times a day.
Yeah.
Not sure why. Then I always question when I get about 3. Because I follow some like Comedy Central, and so a lot of like Key and Peele old skits and stuff like that I end up watching. They have some funny ones.
I mean, there's some just incredible classics. There was a anyway, I'm get off track. I was watching some old Chappelle the other day though. Well worth it. But yeah, get in the mailbag. We got another mailbag coming this week. You said that, and yeah, I think we're ready to tell the people that we're sponsored by wrong sleeve Tito's and vodka. We'll actually go hang out with our Tito's guy, Devin, Wednesday at Puesto, as it turns out. But this is about Tito's. Puesto later. This is about Tito's right now. Tito's right now, John. Keep sending us your pictures of you drinking and making your Tito's.
The number 1 vodka in America, guy. Number 1 vodka in America. Tito's. Go get yourself local liquor store, local grocery chain, maybe a Bevmo. Go get yourself a bottle. Go get yourself a handle. Incredible price points, and then go make yourself a cocktail. And when you do make yourself a cocktail, tag us in the cocktail. I'm a Tito sodas guy, but obviously we're big John Daly's guy. That's just a little. It's lemonade. It's an Arnold Palmer lemonade, iced tea, and Tito's, and it tastes fantastic, especially on a sunny day. And it's supposed to be a sunny week, guy. So now that you live on this side of the bridge. 90 degrees tomorrow. Do you get that 90-degree heat there, or is it still?
I don't know. We'll see. I might that might be an 83 for your boy, but either way, you know it goes great with that. The Tito's kickoff, right? Which is we talked about that week 1 of the NFL season. It's some Tito's. It's a couple ounces of OJ. I recommend the fresh squeezed. I used to be a no pulp guy, but I'm good with pulp now. 2 ounces of soda water. That's it. So maybe a little garnish, right? Maybe a little orange slice, something like that. But Tito's is where it's at. It's the original craft vodka in this country. Back when nobody was making vodka in Texas, they told them it couldn't be done. Tito Beverage said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "No, actually, we're not sure." And Tito was like, "Well, damn it, I'm making the vodka then." And he did. And he not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 19 credit cards. No one else believed, but this man. He started making drinks at charity events. They said, "Hey, you should send your vodka to the San Francisco vodka competition." He was like, "Okay, double gold." They're like, "Hey, Trader Joe's wants to carry your vodka." He's like, "Never heard of him." Tell him to like Eli Manning said last night on Monday Night Football, double birds. And they're like, "No, actually, seriously, Tito, you should send yourself to Trader Joe's." So he's like, "All right, fine, whatever." Bam, blows up. And it's the same since it was from the jump. 6-time distilled in copper pots, not columns. Is it more labor intensive? Yep. Is it better? Absolutely. And off and rolling. Here we are. Blood, sweat, tears, charity, dogs, and delicious vodka.
Get on it right now. Tito's number 1 vodka in America. Can't recommend it enough. You guys know. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you will soon know.
Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Crafted to be savored responsibly. Podcast is also brought to you by MyBookie.ag. Promo code Hammond, the number 1, John.
I just got a little direct deposit today of half my winnings from last week, and I got another one coming with the other half. So it feels good. And the way you do it is you go to mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1, and you place some bets.
You're talking about the parlay winnings, the 5K.
I'm talking about, I just got the Homa win that came through, and then the parlay one is coming through as well. And it's exciting. And we are down just to our original investment. We have our $300 to bet on a lock of the week. We have $100 to bet on the dud of the week. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Also a lot of college football. Baseball playoffs start next week. Get in on that. NBA, some futures, who you like to win. I guess they don't really do divisions. I mean, they technically do, but, the NBA championship. But lock of the week, guy. One takeaway I had last week is I do believe that it can be challenging when you get over the touchdown mark. Now, I know the Ravens took it 66, but that 7.5, 8, 8.5, that number, I like it when it goes right to 12 because it just shows you right away. Like the Bills this week. You could argue that the Texans at 16.5, 17 points, that's just a lot of points for a team that has just played relatively solid.
Yeah.
Right? And think about this. The Texans I'm not saying this is lock or dud, but that's a lot of points, and that feels like a sucker's bet.
Was it 2019 when there was like every week there was multiple 14 to 16 point lines in the NFL? Do you remember that?
If you remember, the Dolphins did that tank where they were going to tank for Tua basically, and they traded Minka. They traded Minka and Laramie Tunzel. And I'm pretty sure by like week 3, they had a line that was 20 points early in the season.
John, right now at mybookie.ag, promo code Hammond the number 1, you can get it on the Bucks game, the Pats game. That's the same game this Sunday.
Yeah.
Right now, you want to bet the biggest game of the year. Use the promo code Ham. You double your first deposit. You double your first deposit with MyBookie with the code Ham1. Sorry, Ham1. I should know this by now. Promo code Ham and the number 1. Double your first deposit. Start winning season today. If you accept the bonus, you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds, or you can decline the bonus. But either way, Ham1, let them know we sent you. Right now, that game is Tampa Bay minus 6.5.
I would take the Pats. I might bet the Pats just in this game in general.
Yeah, it feels like the Bucks are going to be a hot pick. I like the Bucks while it's at 6.5 on the road. I think the difference between them is Adele, as Adele sang about Tom.
Hello,
it's me. I thought that was God. I got chills watching that thing. I think the difference is Bill and Tom both badly want to win this game. Tom can do something about it once the game starts. Bill can kind of do something about it, but at the end of the day, Bill's quarterback is Mac Jones, which might be enough because sneaky. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the Bucks are giving up the most yards per game in the NFL this year.
Well, they have a bunch of injuries in the secondary.
So they are. This is not the Bucks defense of Super Bowl championship.
Yeah.
So you're not crazy. I don't know what the weather's going to be, but I like the Bucks. John likes the Pats. So pick a side.
Did you have an early game that you were licking your lips for lock of the week?
Let's see. Did I have an early?
I have one that doesn't fit our criteria, but it's my favorite game of the week that I'm gonna.
What is it?
I like Minnesota at home getting a couple points against the Browns.
Yes, we actually talked about that game before.
Yeah, I mean, but that would somewhat go again. I mean, the Browns are a 11-12 win team,
Plus
but
was...
the other game I wrote down would be the Titans are going to the Jets.
Yes,
7.5.
7.5.
AJ Brown, I think, pulled his hammy, so he's going to miss the game. Julio is kind of banged up, but he's been good this year.
Really, yeah.
I have no problem if you're in. I will bet against Zach Wilson. I have no problem with that philosophy.
Yeah, I like that game. A couple of the games that stood out to me, John. Bengals at home minus 7.5 against the Jags. Jags were in position to beat the Cardinals last week, but it was kind of freaky. And football team minus 1.5 at Atlanta.
Who do you like? The Jags?
No, I like the Bengals.
Well, it's a short week, right? That's the Thursday night game.
That's the Thursday night game.
Yeah,
so that's the home team Bengals 7.5 at home. But
would you rather bet on the Jets bet on the Titans to cover against the Jets, or get a couple points against Minnesota in that offense that looks badass? And the Browns,
to me, Minnesota Browns is a real football game.
Yeah,
and I like Minnesota +2.
That's what I'm saying. I don't mind doing a lock of the week. Like a lot of people, lock of the week for them, like the game they feel most is a real football game. We just bet on the shittiest game, kind of, or at least
we do the
shittiest.
dud of the yeah.
Well, I'm just saying we bet on the shittiest opponent, which
right
it's not a foolproof plan as we've seen.
How about Saints at home 7.5 against the Giants?
It's just I don't like Jameis as much as a favorite as I do as a dog. His numbers as a dog, I mean, are incredible.
Yeah. How about Rams at home 6 against the Cardinals?
That's just the problem is those are two good teams.
Yeah.
And their divisional game.
How about
I'll do the Jets, but by the end of the week, I'd have no problem if we go Vikings.
I won't either.
So
I watched that game today. So
dud of the week. I mean, the dud of the week: Lions, Bears, or football team Atlanta.
Yeah.
In my Lions Bears could add up to 4 total wins
at
the end of the season.
If I'm being honest, that's probably the dud. I'd rather call football team in Atlanta the dud because I would take football team 1.5.
I did see Rivera said that Heineke needs to calm down a little bit. So it's Are we comfortable on Heineke?
No.
That'd be the thing. I like the football team. I'm with you against Atlanta, but Heineke, if Heineke threw a 4-pick half, it's not like it wouldn't shock anybody, right?
No.
That'd be
Other than the Falcons defense, it would shock them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's Daniel Jones, but
Giants stink.
Yeah, the Giants are terrible.
Frederick on YouTube says Raiders 4, bank it. That line's not 4. Is it?
It's all the way at the bottom because it's Monday night.
Hello. 3.5. I actually like the Raiders plus 3.5 in that game.
Chargers are pretty good, bro.
I know. It's a great game.
I think it's going to be, covering Keenan Allen and Mike Williams a little different than Fuller, Parker, and rookie Waddle.
That's true. Chargers got to cover too, though. They got to cover Ruggs, well-rounded star receiver.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of options. That'll be what's coming up for us. MyBookie.ag, promo code Hammond, the number 1. A lot of looking forward. That's what we do. We do a lot of looking forward, predicting, analyzing, telling you what you think. But I have to look back for a moment. I saw there was some quotes from our guy, Ham Pod listener and former guest, Kyle Juszczyk, about whether or not he should have gone down at the end of regulation against the Packers, which I think is crazy. But you and I talked a little bit about late game management from the Niners, and I did think watching the game again, and we talked about this a little after the game, 12 seconds on the play clock when they snapped before the Juszczyk touchdown. And then I saw the quote from Kyle about the punt at midfield when they were down 10-0. After the snap from Alex Mack, where the left side of the line wasn't ready, Sermon gets like a loss of a half yard instead of what probably could have been a loss of more than that. The Niners punted the football. The Packers drove down the field and scored. Kyle Shanahan said about that sequence, quote, "That's one I regret a ton. Trey Sermon did a good job of getting back to the line of scrimmage, and I should have stayed with my original feeling, which was to go for it on 4th down and short from midfield." And I think my take watching that sequence again, you and I watched it again. We watched the end of the game again. We watched the Juszczyk touchdown again, that this team does not have big margin for error with their quarterback, with some of the questions. Their defense, K'Wan Williams, John, is hurt. He's out. Buster Screen is replacing K'Wan Williams this week.
When did that happen?
Like 10 minutes ago. Calf strain. So we can talk more about that later.
Jesus.
I can think of a guy who's out there working out for the Bucs right now that the Niners might be interested in. But they just don't have the margin for error to not be buttoned down. And Shanahan, I don't know if it was because he was so angry at the bad play on 3rd down that he didn't collect himself, or he couldn't see the spot well enough to decide to go for it. But that hurt him. Snapping the ball with 12 seconds, the more I've looked at it and thought about it, the people that were mad about that on Sunday night were right. Snapping the ball with 12 seconds on the play clock. If you watch that play again, Juszczyk did nothing. They're trying to rip the ball out of Juszczyk's arm, right? He's got 2 guys on him. One of them's trying to rip the ball out. So he's fighting to hold on to the football as he's driving forward. Hashtag ball security. Hashtag Harvard. So
4 points of pressure.
But 12 seconds, if you go back, you and I did this. We watched it. 12 seconds, they snapped it. 12 seconds on the play clock. You go back and watch the rest of that game and you take those 12 seconds away, and that's a major impact on the football game on the Packers' last drive.
And to me, it's not even about, like, I think in a perfect world, when a team is going to kick a field goal at the end of the game and the other team has no timeouts and it's ticking and the coach is standing right next to the referee and he goes, "I'm going to call this thing right at 1 second," and he just does it and the ref knows, so you can't screw it up. I don't even think you have to get to like snap the ball exactly at 1 second, which instead of 42 on the clock would have been 30. And when Kyle would have got in, instead of it being 35, would have been, 23 or whatever. To me, if you just snap it around 5 seconds, that 7-second swing is enormous. Because that gives you a little wiggle room. I think sometimes it happens a lot. Lamar, clearly I've seen a lot of people give the Lions, I don't know if Dan Campbell mentioned anything, but they got screwed. That final play that his throw on 4th and long was 0 seconds on the play clock.
Yeah, so ridiculous.
So
I don't understand, by the way. Can I say something about that play real quick?
Yeah.
Why do we treat the play clock differently than we treat the clock on every other planet? in every other sequence.
Well, isn't the referee staring at the clock?
But the thing, the explanation on the play clock is always like, all right, the referee looks at the clock and then he looks down, and then once he sees 0, he looks down, and if the ball's not snapped, then he waits a beat, then he throws the flag. Even by that measure, they screwed that one up. But it's like when I show up for first period at 8 a.m., bell rings at 8 a.m. I'm late if it's after 8 a.m. I don't have to look. There's a bell. I don't understand. Anyway,
I agree. And to me, that is one where, Jimmy Garoppolo's 30 years old, and he's been in the league now for a long time around Kyle Shanahan, Josh McDaniels, and fucking Bill Belichick. Like, that to me, I'm putting on him, Yeah. Like, to me, some instincts, like, we're not in a total rush. To me, there's difference between being in a rush, like the Packers were on that final drive, and being in control with urgency, which the Niners should have had there, right? Hey, once we pass the midfield and get down there, we have urgency because we have to score, but we are still going to dictate the terms. So let's just and Jimmy, like, a lot of people have DM'd me about prevent defense, like Middlecoff, what? Like I'm Wink Martindale or something. I would just say in my time watching football for a living, I do think it's very difficult to strike a balance of prevent defense, and you can't blitz everyone against Aaron Rodgers. We saw Wink Martindale do that against Derek Carr, and it cost him the game. You blitz everyone, Devontae Adams could be walking into the end zone, or even one of their other wide receivers. I have no problem with playing your defensive coverage. To me, Fred Warner, coaches hammer this home. Like, there is a difference between doing what is expected. Like, Jimmy, you're going to run this play. Kyle, you're going to run it. We're going to execute the shit out of it. Ideally, like, Kyle breaks tackles and gets in the end zone. But even if you get tackled right at the one or two, that's a badass play. That's high-level execution. But it's also like your instincts. Like, Kyle's instincts are to break tackles, get into the end zone. Jimmy, your instincts as a player, how many times have you been in these meetings and heard the fucking coaches hammer this? See the number, call, snap the ball. I'm sure they have these drills in the offseason and the training camp about be a football player. Like, to me, my thing with Fred Warner, and I have no problem being critical of Jimmy because his game is kind of hit or miss. Fred Warner has, like, been a perfect player for the Niners for, like, the last 3 years. Like, I can't expect anything more of him. But I think if he was being self-critical, his, like, deep kills you there. The underneath stuff, you can swarm to the ball. They don't have any timeouts. So, like, that depth, I bet he's getting his depth exactly like they're telling him, right? Whatever. Get to your landmark. But it's also like, well, they're running deeper routes. Get even deeper, right? Because he was just millimeters away from tipping the ball. But it's like, I can't let anyone get behind me on a crossing route. Someone gets in front of me, I'm the best fucking player on this field. Me and Devontae, I can still tackle him in front of me. But get behind me, that kills us. So it's a balance of just like, that's one to me, Fred. Maybe that gets in that situation again. Instincts picks the ball because they try it. That same team would probably try to run it against that prevent defense where it's like be an instinctive player. Don't just be a robot. And that's a balance. And I think the best players historically, and just the really good ones, have a balance of doing what they're told, but also, let your playmakers make play. Like being a playmaker, being instinctive, like. I can't just get to, Lewis used to talk a lot about this when he played for Saban and Belichick. I don't know if you know this. He's only mentioned this a million times. That, like, you have different assignments, right, in coverage, especially as, like, a safety, to get to different landmarks. Well, there's difference of just, like, I got to get 7 yards deep and 2 yards over, and also, hey, I got Julio Jones, that he's doing this. Like, I got to cheat it a little bit. And remember Belichick when he was on the greatest 100 players, and he like had an erection talking about Ed Reed's play. Like, that's the highest level of instincts. Yeah. But there's some middle ground that I think Jimmy, you kind of blew that one.
Yeah, I think
what's the rush, right?
Be quick but don't hurry is the legendary quote from John Wooden, right? Be quick but don't hurry. And there was no rush. In fact, again, this was one of like 3 moments in a critical spot in the game that Chris Collinsworth said something really good. Chris Collinsworth gets a lot of heat. I enjoy him. Before the snap of that play, before the Niners snapped the ball with 12 seconds on the play clock at the touchdown use check, Collinsworth says the Niners don't want to stop the clock right now. If anything, they want the clock to run as much as possible because they don't want to give the ball back to the Packers with any time left. He said it right there. And I agree with Kyle Juszczyk. I believed it that night, and I believe it even more today. Once that play happens in that moment, when you've already had, A, you're trailing, and B, you had the end of the first half when you guys couldn't punch it in, and you're just in the middle of this moment where you're fighting to hold on to the football. Like, I don't have 1 ounce, 1% of myself that has any issue with Juszczyk scoring. But while you can control the play and control everything, everyone's just standing there, the ball's sitting on the field. This team doesn't have the room for error to snap the ball with 12 seconds on the play clock.
Well, once you get it over midfield under, around the minute mark, for them not having timeouts has to dictate the way you're thinking, right?
By the way, another thing that Collinsworth said, was 6 minutes left in the game when they used their last timeout.
They're just going to come back to bite them?
He just said that, wow, Packers used their last timeout.
Yeah. Well, you see it happen a lot in the NFL. Sometimes it happens in the first half and they make too big a deal with it. It can cost you points at the end of the first half. It can be very, very critical in the second half when you blow a couple timeouts. I mean, the Harbaugh teams did it a lot. Delay a game type stuff or just fuck ups on defense. You have no timeouts with 5 or 6 minutes left in a big game, tight game. That is, the Packers should, have gone to church Sunday night, and just said thanks, because if they had one timeout and pulled that off, very understandable, right? They have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, the best wide receiver in the game. But to do that with no timeouts is, to me, what really made that win on their side and the loss for the Niners be so extreme, right? It's like, oh my God. Wouldn't you agree if they would have had multiple timeouts? Let's say the Packers used one. They had all 3 on that final Niners drive. They used one to slow down the clock. The Niners still end up scoring, and then they had 2, and they pulled that off. It's really not that crazy.
Right.
It's kind of understandable.
Yeah.
But in the situation where they have no timeouts, even everyone on their couch is like, well, we're still in pretty good shape. They got no timeouts. But you're thinking in the back of your mind, is this too good to be true? And It was too good to be true because of the way, I think it just all simply gets back to that. The difference of 7 seconds. Again, just let it go to 5. I'll never have a problem right around that 5-minute mark. I know a lot of people like to get really greedy, but you see enough fuck-ups, right? And in that situation, to lose 5 yards, it's like... But they rushed to the they were on the line of scrimmage 15 seconds. Everyone just, let's take a deep breath.
Yep.
But I also go back to the balance, like you said at the end of the first half. They're not exactly the 07 Pats where a touchdown's guaranteed. That's the hard part. And Jimmy's not thinking I'm just every time I lead a drive, I score.
It's true, but we're talking about the play clock here, not the game clock, right?
Yeah, they had 45 seconds on their side.
And they had timeouts.
How many timeouts they have? They definitely had.
They had all.
Yeah, they definitely
had
all
3.
You're right.
So, yeah.
And you can always spike the ball, in their situation when you have a lot of time. Not ideal because you give up a down, but
right. But I don't think it wasn't
even getting close to that.
If it came to that, there were some other failures that we'd probably have to talk about. But if it came to that, then Trey Lance probably would be starting this week. If they were in that position that they were and couldn't score and used all their timeouts and were spiking the football somehow,
that would have been a disaster.
That means they would have run 4. That would have been before first down time. It would have been, because there's 4 downs. So I don't know how they would have even been in that position. They would have had a penalty and fumbled the ball backwards, right?
That would have been worse than what happened.
Yes.
Which is saying something, because what happened was pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Trey Lance. We talked about this a little bit after the game. The Niners passing game is behind pace right now in terms of just what it takes in the NFL. At this moment in time, if we take the top 10 passers in the league by touchdown, and there's actually 13 of them because a few guys are tied for 10th place. When it's all said and done, your top 10, probably the guy that's 5th, 6th, 7th, that guy, maybe 9, 10. That guy's probably going to have around 32 or 34 touchdowns this year in a 17-game season. And the Niners are not on that pace. They are not on that pace right now, which is bad because they can't run the football. And they're about to play a team that you might have to play like that this week in order to beat Seattle.
Yeah, I think the Niners have a flaw going right now because they are solid, right? You watch all the teams, they are not. I wouldn't put them on the upper echelon the way the Rams are playing, and they're definitely not on the lower echelon, but they're probably higher end middle. But their fatal flaw when they play some of these teams, like Seattle, the way Seattle got beat last week was Cousins threw for 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns and really sliced and diced them. And I'm watching Jimmy Garoppolo going, does he have a 3-touchdown game in him against a good team? And I don't think he does. And their running game, the Vikings and Titans combined the last 2 weeks are about 300 yards rushing, 2 guys. Madison had 112. Obviously, Derrick Henry had 180. Plus the other, 2 weeks ago in that win. The Niners aren't running for 150 yards right now with the crew of guys they're running out on anybody. And that year when Jimmy Garoppolo, when they made the Super Bowl, they were one of the best defensive teams. And they had a couple offensive moments, passing-wise, in different games. But for the most part, it was a running game. Well, their running game, I don't have much faith in it working right now with some random guys. I mean, Trey Sermon doesn't even look comfortable in the offense yet. And Elijah Mitchell, who knows if he's able to play this week, clearly they were not comfortable playing the random guys, right? The dude they claimed off a practice squad, or even Kerryon Johnson, who was on their practice squad. So that to me is part of it. It's like Kyle, and maybe just another week in the scheme, they feel a little bit better. It happens a lot in college where, because I was thinking about Matt Rule the other day, how different it's got to be when he loses a guy, right, which I'm sure happened to him at Baylor. He just has another guy on the team that he's seen a lot of reps with, and you just kind of you bring him up that week in practice, and then he plays. Where in pro football, you have to sign a guy off the street, and then you're like, I don't really like what I see, so you just try to circumvent that position, which can be very difficult for the Niners when running football is their go-to thing. But Seattle's fatal flaw is not stopping the pass, and I don't feel great about Jimmy Garoppolo right now is, a bottom 12 quarterback. He's in the 20s based on of all the football I've watched right now. He's somewhere 20 to 32. Closer to probably 20, but that is not the type guy that's beating Seattle, right? Now, if you have a top, if Kyler Murray was playing them or Matt Stafford, I'd be like, well, Seattle's in trouble. Right? We just saw Cousins light him up. Do you feel good about Jimmy just lighting anyone up right now in the passing game? Because I don't.
No. Well, also, it's not just that Cousins lit him up. It's that Cousins lit him up without making mistakes. And, I think one thing we know with Garoppolo, if there's enough volume, he'll make some great plays, but he will also make mistakes.
Probably one of the better games he's ever played. Did you tell me that?
I didn't tell you that by the numbers, but I could tell you that I watched the game today, and then I texted you and said, have you seen Kirk Cousins' line from the Seahawks game? And you said, yeah, let's check his line for the season. Have you seen that? And then we both said, we think he's a top 10 quarterback. We'll get to him later, though. But yeah, he was 30. What did I write it? 30.
He was 30, 38,
23, yeah. 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Does Jimmy have that game in the bag against anyone besides the Jets or the Jags right now? Well,
yeah, I mean, look, I think he does have that game in the bag sometimes. But what it takes for that game to happen is things you got to get lucky. There's going to be a couple balls that could be picked, they can't be picked. You're going to fumble a ball, you got to fall on it, right? So to me, it's not.
We'd have to. Someone will correct me. I would think there's a chance he's never completed 30 balls in a game. Maybe it's happened a handful of times. I don't want to get you
regardless of the number. My point is just I think it's possible that he has it. I think Kirk Cousins has that thing. Kirk Cousins could play that game 3 out of 4 weeks. Jimmy might play that game once a year. Is my point. So, but we'll get to Kirk. This is about Trey Lance. Does this mean you need to play Trey Lance more this week against the Seahawks? Because I think there's an argument to make that he just gives you something that you're going to need potentially. He potentially gives you something you're going to need. I think you could also make the argument, John, that this is a dangerous game. Seattle makes mistakes. The fewer mistakes Minnesota just didn't make really any mistakes last week. They played a really clean game on offense.
Yeah.
And that you are taking a chance, right, if you go with Trey, because he could also make you the mistake that really hurts in this game. But at this point, do you have to try it, given what he could bring from a dynamic standpoint? And, you made a really good point Sunday night. If you're struggling to run the football, maybe Trey Lance can help you do that.
Well, I was listening to Kyle, I think it was Sunday night. Maybe they were asking him, why, if your running game is limited, why don't you use him more? And he's like, well, he's not a running back, right? It's not like we can hand him the ball. So if I'm just running him all the time, it becomes pretty clear. To me, though, where they haven't used yet, really, I guess they did the one time, and one of his 2 plays was a pass. you need him to give you explosive plays. So a play action deep bomb. Like when I'm watching Cousins, their offense is actually very similar to what the Niners do, not in yards and execution and points, but just in terms of the plays he runs. They do a lot of the boots and the waggles. Like he is tailor-made for this offense. He pushes the ball deep. Now, he has Justin Jefferson, who's on pace for a fucking incredible season, and Third and Thielen, who is just a baller. But the Niners have Ayuk and Debo. I mean, Debo's a stud, and George. Like, you can push the ball. And even Kyle said, and a lot of people DM me that we were critical of Jimmy on the pick. And even Kyle was like, it was just incredible play by the backside corner come across. But it was, Kittle wouldn't even have touched the ball. Like, it wasn't a good throw. So, yeah, it's a great play, but George...
You don't think Kittle would have touched the ball in that play? You thought it was overthrown?
Well, yeah, he put his hands out, and the guy was way in front of him and caught the ball.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty close. Because I also think he couldn't have underthrown it. And it would have, if he had underthrown it, the defender was... I think, to me, the flaw with
I thought it was a little Emmanuel Sanders Super Bowl-ish.
See, I didn't think it was that far, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought the mistake on that play... I thought the problem, not the mistake on that play, was that, ideally, it's Ayuk that's running that route, that's running down the field like that.
Okay, yeah,
but whatever.
But I think one of the advantages, and I don't blame them for doing this, they go, our tight end is going to be one of the faster tight ends in the league, and we might get a mismatch down the field, and he's able to run by him, and that's true. I have no problem running that play again. Use Trey. Bring Trey in for some big plays. You need to get a spark. You need to get some explosive plays in the passing game because it doesn't exist right now. The explosive plays they had in the passing game last week were George throwing a guy off him, stiff-arming a guy, running through the middle, Debo making catches out of his ass, which I'm not trying to – that's incredible what he was pulling off. Well, I'm just watching – it's not even just the Minnesota game against Seattle. You just watch a lot of games like the Cowboy game last night. Guys just, why can't the Niners receivers, he's got to scheme these guys open and for them to push the ball down the field. They have to do that if they're going to compete in the modern day NFL. This is not 1996. This is not 2015. I feel like the game's pretty consistent. You have to make big plays. And the Niners in 2019, a lot of their big plays came in the run game, and I don't think you can depend on that right now. There were points in time in that game where Juice, it felt like Kyle was like, and I don't blame him, but he's like, I don't trust anybody right now except Juice to be my running back.
Did he get the first carry of the game?
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, I love Juice, but he can't, that's not, I have more faith on him, like put him at slot receiver than doing that.
I think the question I have for their run game is, was it just not enough time for his running backs this week, or does he not like any of those guys enough to put him in the game? Because
one guy he drafted in the third round.
What are you talking about?
I mean, one of the guys that he's on the fence with right now in terms of playing time would be Trey Sermon was a third round pick.
But I mean, he was the guy that played in that game. I'm saying the other guys, because we keep talking about, you can plug anybody into this offense. Well, if that's the case, he didn't just plug anybody in on Sunday night. Like, he doesn't feel that way. Is it because he hasn't had enough time with those other guys, or are they just not good enough to be on the field?
Wouldn't you say his history would say that there's a level, even as an NFL coach, where transactions happen a lot? He's got to be pretty comfortable with you to depend on you on offense. Defense, they run through guys. It's less of his baby. I think with the offense, his baby, he's got to feel pretty good about you. Like, he does not throw random guys out there very often.
Don't you think protection is a big part of that too? Like, specifically quarterback protection?
But if you're just bring the guy in for an actual run.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you give the guy a rep?
I don't know. But other than he doesn't trust it.
Jimmy had one game in 2019 where he threw over 30. He had over 30 completions. For the most part, it was all. No, it was a win against the Cardinals, 4 touchdowns. So I mean, it was. Now he beat up on the Cardinals that year. He threw 8 touchdowns in 2 games against them.
Well, and he threw 27 touchdowns that year, which in a 17-game season is 28.5, which is still, even in that really good year, is behind what a top 10 quarterback will do this year. That year, that was good for 6th in the league. This year, it's not going to be.
No. What's he on pace for right now?
28.5.
But he's on pace right now for like 23, right? With 4 touchdowns. Isn't that the math we did before the game?
4 touchdowns through. Oh, yeah, he's on pace for 23. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. What I was saying is 27 this year is 28.5, but his pace is 23, which is not good enough, especially with this defense and with this run game.
I just think unless you have the best run game in the league, which like The Titans, right? And it's not even the run game. It's like they had the best running back. So it's like even I think Henry had a buck 20 against the Colts. They just have a great running back. The Niners do it by committee, but their committee is just injured. It's not working right now. You have to be able to pass the ball. You have to be able to pass the ball. And when you can do both, you can dominate as an offense. Like last night watching the Cowboys, their greatest advantage is we know their passing game's awesome. When they're running the ball, they're going to score 40 points. Because of what the hell do you do? They have multiple running backs. Zeke looked good, and then they're throwing it all over the place with all these guys. Like and they just represent a lot of different offenses, right? I mean, the Rams are a good example. They just run the ball a little, but their passing game's so elite. The Cardinals, they use random running backs, but their quarterback can operate as a runner pretty easily, and then their passing game's awesome. So you watch that Seattle game, it's like at any moment, they can score a touchdown. Like that's the one thing, even though they've been off, they were more off last week, I thought, than the Titans game. The Titans game, they just kind of hit the skids in the fourth quarter, and the Titans had this incredible comeback. Last game, they really didn't play well in the second half because it was 17-7, and then they never scored again. They lose 30-7. They lose 30-17, and they just looked out of whack. But anytime he drops back and throws it to 14 or 16, you feel like that guy can score a touchdown on that play. Like the Niners do not have that tonight, right now. And the problem when you play them, like that to me is why you have to institute and just have a couple deep bombs. I mean, you got to give them to Jimmy too, but I would bring Trey in a couple times because I do think if you're going to win this game 25 plus points, like you're not winning this thing in the teens. Seattle's not scoring back-to-back weeks in the teens, right?
No, I mean Lockett. I would expect plays. You know, he hurt his knee. He came back. So I would expect that he plays this week.
How do they cover? Was it last year the DK had an 80-yard catch against them and ran by everybody? Remember that? They were banged. They had a bunch of random guys on the field, but that's a bad matchup guy for them.
And Chris Carson's running the ball really well.
Yeah, I mean,
the other thing is the Niners. When we talk about big plays, I mean, we're talking about creating them on offense. They have one takeaway on defense. Like,
and that guy's on injury reserve right now, right? Is that the pick six from Greenlaw?
Yeah. What other?
Yeah. They don't even force balls on the ground. I guess, what's his name, who got a chest contusion / pissing blood in shambles, but he's day to day. I saw someone's like, you get a chest contusion, you're pissing blood, you spend 2 nights in the hospital day to day, rolled ankle, 3 weeks.
Ankle, it's clear. Like the ankle, you gotta, if you can move your contused, bleeding body, you can play. But you got to be able to move it. So
I think Witten and Romo both had like ruptured spleens and played in games. Tony definitely did.
You do it for the star, John.
Yeah. You
do it for the star, I guess. John, speaking of star, how about the latest star in the Ham portfolio, huh?
Oh,
if you know about this, we'll be there tomorrow. Puesto! The people of Puesto, we appreciate you. We love you, and we can't wait to come see you. Puesto, John, is elite with a capital E-L-I-T-E. Puesto Mexican Artisan Kitchen and Bar.
If they dare to give me an open tab tomorrow, I'll take down 10 tacos, no problem. I'll do shrimp. I'll do the I had actually, I don't know if I sent it to you. Someone DM'd me. They must have been in San Diego and had the short rib tacos. Just a picture of the two of them. Must have got a little taco plate, and they looked fantastic. Oh, it was filet mignon, I think it is. Is that the taco? The shrimp tacos, I'm definitely going to power some down. You can never go wrong with just carne asada tacos. I love a good chicken taco. Carne asada. Can't wait. The other thing is they melt the cheese and put it around the taco, which I know they do sections 110 and 129. If you're going to the game this week, a little surprised when I checked the timing. I know you had mentioned this on Sunday, but just looking at the ESPN app, 105 kickoff. Kind of got screwed down to 125 for either of these NFC West games. No 125 love, but I'm not complaining. I like that 105. Get it going right away. You got to be careful if you're on a different channel. That game can sneak up on you.
Yes.
So be prepared. But if you are at the game, Seattle Niners, which obviously this is a fucking this is a game as a season ticket holder you kind of circle right at the beginning of the year. So I know a lot of people listening are going to be there. 110, 129 are their stands. Sections 110, 129. If you eat a taco at the game, we need to be linked in it. I want to see it.
Yeah, or just send us a picture of it as you walk by. 110, 129.
Or do
They've
that,
got
yeah.
Santa Clara location, Concord location, bunch of locations in Southern California. Founded in 2012 in La Jolla. That's in California. First-generation Mexican-American family. We got Eric and Alex, the Adler brothers, who we've talked to a few times. They're huge Niner fans. They have a huge taco selection. They've got the Mexican style, the Mexico City style. That's the crispy melted cheese.
Oh,
that has won award after an award. Michelin Guide, National Geographic, Food Network, and Haberman and Middlecoff, the Mount Foodmore of the food industry, all approve, double thumbs up. The tortillas are made in-house daily, from scratch. Organic, non-GMO masa from Macienda, which might be a place, it might be a plant, I'm not positive.
Me either.
The best you can find on the market. Maybe somebody can tell us. And they also give back to local causes throughout the year through the charitable arm, Puesto Cares. They started making their own lagers. They've got over 500 tequilas and spirits. So their margaritas they got a bang bang margarita, I think, at the Niner game you can go get.
Do it now.
So go check them out right now. Puesto. You just Eat Puesto is the website if you want to go do a little dive in on that. Podcast also brought to you by DraftKings.
Oh,
where right now you can get in the ham game, John. Use the promo code ham when you sign up at DraftKings. Link is in the description of however you're consuming this content. There's a link, podcast or the YouTube, and get in our game.
I just checked this week. 92 spots left. We have 108 out of 100. It's only Tuesday, so if you're watching this on YouTube, the link's below. If you're listening to this, the link is in the podcast description. You get in our league. It's really easy. You go to DraftKings, like you go to the App Store. You download DraftKings, and then when you sign up, use the promo code HAM, and then you get in our league. And once you play in one of our games, you're automatically added to the league, correct? And then you'll just constantly be
I still think you have to join the league.
Yeah, then join the league, and then you'll be on the invite list, and you're good to go. And you can take our money. Our last winner, every week's making $450. Right. But even if I had someone, we might have been on the same DM. It was a little group DM that had a picture. A guy won $80. I think he finished 8th, and he was fired up. You and I didn't even get close.
No, 53rd. I'm making progress. Go make your lineup, and then every week we play the football games. And I just showed my lineup there, but that's not really my lineup. I'm going to change that. Although I kind of like that fake lineup that I just showed.
I've really struggled at picking the right quarterback. I really
it's crazy because there's a bunch of good quarterbacks. I know.
I know that gets me like 35 points. I get a quarterback that gives me 20 points. I want to hit a home run. Like I get a four touchdown quarterback.
John, shout out to my guy Danny who texted me today and said, "What did Danny say?"
Your
Danny
former boss?
No, not your former boss. He said, I'm in a fantasy basketball dynasty league. We got an open spot. You interested? And I said, Danny, I'm not interested. And he said, well, if you're thinking about it, and he gave me some other details. And I said, I assure you, I am not thinking about it. Season-long fantasy is not my thing. Dynasty fantasy is definitely not my thing.
Yeah.
Daily fantasy is where it's at for your boy.
Completely agree. I can't even imagine. Now, I'm glad everyone does it that's listening because it just keeps your interest. But picking a guy and then having to follow him if he sucks, it's one thing if the guy's good. Can you imagine picking a guy, like thinking you getting a deal this year on Roethlisberger? You're like, what if he has and then all of a sudden you're like, this is the dumbest decision I've ever made. Happens more with the running backs. If you take a first-round running back and he tears his ACL in like September, I'd quit fantasy.
Who do you think will be the Steelers quarterback next year?
Jimmy Garoppolo?
It crossed my mind today, and then I thought, can I picture Jimmy Garoppolo in a Steelers uniform? But then I realized it's kind of hard to picture anybody in a Steelers uniform. Really, when you name any quarterback, picture them in a Steelers uniform, it's kind of hard to picture.
Well, the guy, they've had one quarterback for 16 years.
I know.
He's been the full-time starter since that Eli Rivers draft. And remember, he started day one on a team that went 15-1. Like he didn't sit in a year in times when people sat. Rivers sat behind Breeze. Eli sat for a little bit behind Warner up until that Ravens game. And Ben just played. I mean, he has been a stalwart. It's got to be a tough spot for a Pittsburgh fan, but you had last year, so you're like, you know, you really had 2 years. He had Tommy John 2 years ago. It's been these last couple of years are, I don't know, normal football stuff. Like this is how it ends.
I don't think it's a tough spot for them if you're a Steeler fan.
Well, it's a tough spot because you want it to be over.
Yeah, that's the only. You might have a Roethlisberger jersey, but you don't want him on your team anymore.
Do you feel that he'll go quietly like kind of Eli and Rivers?
Not. He most certainly will not.
Could you see him on another team? Would someone bring him in for like camp? Not a good backup.
The only way is if he somehow like put together a last month of the season that looked okay.
Well, like if Rivers this year said, you know, I don't even want to be a starter. I'd be cool with someone paying me $7 million. I'll be the best backup in the league. Would there have been 10 teams trying to sign him?
Yeah.
Do you think if Roethlisberger went, listen, guys, I just want to be a mentor to a mentee. I'll take $6 million. Just I'll be the backup. Would there be 10 teams interested? Because I don't think there would. You couldn't risk his
part of it
bringing
is
him
him
into the group. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, I had forgotten about this.
What happened?
Nothing happened. I'm going to share it with you here in a moment. Just I want you to experience it if you're watching the YouTube. Wow, where'd this comment go? D'Anthony says it was weird seeing Michael Vick in a Steelers uniform. Holy shit!
I remember that.
Look at that. That is weird.
He looks kind of cool though in it.
He looks awesome. But the face mask that he wore with the visor. He looked good till the end, though.
Feels like Roethlisberger's been getting kind of banged up these last 5 or 6 years. Now, he's always been a banged-up guy, but he used to play through it and just go the boot Monday through Saturday, and miraculously it would come off. That was like the Ravens thing. They always thought he was like always, you know, it's like, oh, my God, Ben, just fucking take off your fake cast. A little LeBron style after the loss in the finals, and all of a sudden he just had a splint. You're like, what? Broke my hand, guys. Broke my hand. It's like, you just had 38. That one probably takes the cake. The LeBron guy. LeBron shit on his high school quarterback last night. He's like, Peyton's like, who was playing quarterback for? He's like, yeah, I probably would have played longer, fellas, if that Joe Schmo idiot could throw the ball. It's like that guy probably has. I could picture that guy being like a small business owner in Akron, Ohio, and he's been telling everyone for 20 plus years. You guys know I was LeBron's quarterback. You know that I threw a touchdown to LeBron James. Last night, every single person he's ever told was like, bro, you sucked. I thought that was mean.
Well, it's funny you say that because the highlight of the Manning's Monday Night Football was Archie, the dad, coming on. And in it, he's like, you know what, Peyton, I got to say, you were pretty mean to LeBron's high school quarterback. You shouldn't have done that, and you should apologize. Archie Manning is actually gold on that show because he talks to both of them like they're his children, which they are, and it's fantastic. It's really good.
Eli double middle finger telling the producer to blur it out.
After he went fake double middle finger and then went real middle finger.
I wasn't watching when he did the middle finger. And I was like, he did double. It made, once you watch the segment, he's talking about the Eagles fans with Chris Long. It actually was pretty harmless. Then he comes back
from break and he does like the apology, but like it's one of those like, he's just like, hey, I guess I got to apologize. I guess you can't do double middle finger. I don't get it. I mean, an 8-year-old kid can do it to me, but I can't do it on cable.
He's funny.
He's really funny.
Yeah, he's funny.
I wouldn't mind when they go Al Michaels and Peyton on Monday Night Football next year if they don't include Eli in that too.
I did stumble upon on YouTube
as the sideline reporter.
I didn't know this existed because I don't have ESPN Plus, but he went to Saban's boathouse and went so they showed the clip of him getting flipped. I watched some of the clip of them going around the lake and Nick telling the story that every year, within a week before training camp, every freshman, new guy, comes to the lake house and they have to do a water thing. Even if they can't swim, we're putting things on it. They are getting on the tube. He said in the history of him doing this, the only guy he couldn't get flipped over, Terrence Cody, 400 pounds. This thing didn't flip.
That's a great tradition.
Yeah, it's a good tradition.
Was it the Saban piece on ESPN that Marcus Spears was telling the story about how he came to see Saban and he went to Saban's house and he saw Saban's like father-in-law and then he saw Saban at the office. He's like, oh, your father-in-law's in town. And Nick's like, he is? He'd been staying at Saban's house for 2 days. Nick didn't know. I mean, just how about Nick basically standing up and hanging up as that call ended last night? He had something to get to.
Well, guy, he was
keep
going
those guys for a
home.
while.
It was 10 o'clock at night. Like, in all seriousness, I don't think it quite gets enough of its just due how hard that guy is still working with his accomplishments at his age. Part of it is his hair dye is pretty good. It doesn't look fake, which clearly, I mean, guy, he's almost 70 years old. He'd have some gray hairs. He doesn't really look like he's aged in a decade. Does he look that different than he did at 61 than he does at 69?
No, I got to go check the tape on his appearance in The Blind Side, but he still looks very good.
And I feel like his energy level, he just feels he's very consistent.
Feels happier.
I feel he's very at peace.
Yeah. I can't believe the Mannings aren't doing the Monday night game this week. I don't think they're back till week 7. The Raiders, who are getting their second Monday night game of the season and deserve it.
Well, they only did 10, right?
Well, I know. But this one, I want them, part of Peyton and Eli is I want to see what they're saying about Justin Herbert. You know what I mean?
Well, do you expect them to be on the Monday night playoff game?
Oh, the late ad Monday night game?
When did that thing get added? Hey, guys, do you know that we can make an extra $50 million? Oh, yeah, let's throw it on Monday. What do you think about the coaches and the players? We don't give a fuck. Because I had someone
will end up on a short week.
I had a buddy text me this bro, it's pretty fucked up. Can you imagine being like the Rams or the Niners playing Tampa or New Orleans or just something far away, the Washington football team, let's say, whoever, winning that game, but you're going to do road games, and then the following week you have to leave for an opponent on Friday because then you have to play the Packers, but you also don't know who you're going to play all week going into the Monday game until Sunday afternoon, right? Because the team that you don't, the matchups don't really take its come to fruition for the bracket up until everyone plays, right? Because if the lower seed wins. So it's not like you can you just get a huge jump ahead on the Packers. Unless you would be the 7 seed and know if you win, you play the 1 seed, then you could just have the advanced guys just working on the Bucks or whatever. But still,
how about just for the players?
It's pretty nuts.
It's not even about the game plan preparation. What about just for the players?
Couldn't you argue just have a Monday week to fall?
You have to keep pushing it back until you're saying for one of the conference championship games?
Oh, because there's no bye in front of the conference. Could you just do a buys in front of the conference championship game, or college football style, and then do another bye
like you do for the Super Bowl?
Would you have a problem with buys?
I mean, if the option is buys or one team gets screwed, I would take one team gets screwed.
Well, that's Roger took that.
If I'm the NFL, right? That's what you would do. Or I guess you couldn't have just one of the games on one weekend and the other game on the other weekend, because then one team only gets 2 teams get a week and the other teams get 2 weeks.
Well, do you know what my thought was watching Monday Night Football? If the Cowboys win the East, it'll be the Cowboys on Monday Night Football because that game would do 40 million people.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to win the East.
Yeah, so they're on Monday Night Football or they're on Saturday night. But if Tom Brady's playing that or Rodgers Saturday night, the thing with the playoffs, you got a lot of options for Saturday night, NBC, Michaels, and Collinsworth. You'll get 3 or 4 good options. Now, Sunday afternoon, Fox, they usually get that.
See, I feel like will Monday become what the Saturday game was, which is kind of the worst game?
Oh, for ESPN?
Yeah. It's Monday. It's a standalone. There's no competition. It'll do well just because it's Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it could.
As opposed to
So you're saying it makes sense, I guess. I didn't even think about it. They're just going to move the Saturday ESPN game to Monday.
Right? I mean, I didn't really read it, but as we're talking about it, isn't that what it is?
Yeah. It is. What's Monday Night Football?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, there's one, does that mean there's one Saturday game?
Well, I think NBC once they added 2 games, NBC got 2. Remember? Because Tirico did one last year, and then Collinsworth and Al did one. So the NBC got the double dip.
Yeah.
And then ESPN, Fox, CBS, maybe CBS got the double dip too. You just want to be the networks that's double dipping. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, and you want to have a Sunday game. Ideally,
you think so?
Over a Saturday? I think so. A Saturday midday. I'd rather have a Sunday night than a Saturday midday. That's why the ESPN game's always 1 o'clock on Saturday.
I agree. Saturday night's not bad though. Saturday night 5:30.
No, it's not. John, this comes to us from YouTube. Matt Roy with a comment. Kirk Cousins having a sneaky career year. It's a very astute observation, Matt. John and I were talking about that before the show today, too. And we did wonder, what is it like for Kyle Shanahan right now, watching the tape of the Seahawks game, which is also the tape of the Viking game, and seeing Kirk Cousins look incredible? He's better than I thought he was. And maybe part of that is I watched him a lot on the Washington football team, and now he's on this team, and he's got maybe 2 top 10 receivers. I mean, Jefferson is one. Thielen's fantastic. Dalvin Cook's not even healthy, and they got this really good backup running back. They're really good. And he actually looks kind of dynamic when you watch him.
His stats since he showed up there have been pretty good. Just pulling up, and I know his first couple years there, I know the Niners played him in that playoff game. He can't scramble. So if his offensive line, which was very questionable his first couple years, he can look really bad. I feel like when his offensive line is getting smoked, he becomes what you always say about a baseball team that can't hit it. He looks kind of lifeless, but it's not really his fault. He just can't scramble away, so he gets destroyed. 30-10 in 18, 70%. 19 the year that they beat the Saints, right, and they lost the Niners in the second round, which is, he won a playoff game on the road. That's pretty fucking incredible against the Saints. He went 26-6, so he only threw 6 picks that year. Last year actually was his career year, 35 touchdowns. Now, he threw 13 picks, but part of it, to me, I bet if we really did a deep dive on that season, their defense was like historically bad, and he was like kind of forced to carry them. So he's not really a huge pick guy. Like when I think Kirk Cousins, I think like 9 to 12 picks. 13's kind of creeping up there.
Yeah.
Right now he's 8-0, but I think if you just look at the last 2 years, he might go back-to-back years of like 35 and 38 touchdowns. Now part of it, like you said, is they get Jefferson, which it always felt like him and Diggs were at odds, but when you looked at Diggs' stats with him, remember Diggs had, I think, like 11-9. Like, he got like 20 touchdowns through his first 2 years. Like, he was productive. And it feels like they've even gone to another level. Dalvin Cook, when he's on the field, their offense, like, he's good. Their offense, to me, is one of the easiest to just sit back and watch in the NFL right now. Like, it's not dink and dunk Alex Smith,
No. And I think a lot of people probably do watch them just from a fantasy standpoint.
Well, I pick one of their guys, one of the core 3, not Cousins, every week.
Well, I picked, sometimes it's worth taking 2 of them. Sometimes it might be worth taking Cousins and both of them.
I agree. I'm going to take Cousins this week. You heard it.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have seemingly, we'll see where Trey Lance is. I said this the other day, so I don't want to belabor the point. But they've kind of, with hindsight, missed that quarterback at every turn. Cousins is better than Jimmy. Now, here's the one thing I will say, too, before I make this whole point. Cousins is better than Jimmy. They should have drafted Mahomes. They should have scouted Mahomes and Deshaun. They wanted Deshaun. Obviously, this year couldn't get him. They wanted Stafford. Nope. Passed on Brady last year. They've made the Rodgers thing never was going to come together. So they draft Trey Lance, and now we'll see. Now, I will say, they did get to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Right? If they had won the Super Bowl, this would definitely be a no conversation. They did get to the Super Bowl with Jimmy.
What was Jimmy? He was 27-10 or something that year. Cousins was 26-6. Like, Jimmy was every bit as good as Kirk 2 years ago.
Here's what I know about Kirk.
Kirk's past him now. Kurt.
Yeah.
Kirk.
Not Kurt. Kirk.
Isn't that what what's his name? Bruce Allen called him?
Kurt. Yeah. What is true is that he's not even if statistically he has a top 10 season this year, he's not the top 5 carry you guy. And he probably can't win a Super Bowl. And the Niners have been to a Super Bowl. So what they needed after they lost the Super Bowl was to take a big swing on the kind of quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl, which is why they wanted Deshaun, which is why they wanted Stafford, which is why they wanted Rodgers. Ironically, Brady, no one can win more Super Bowls than Brady, and they passed on him. And it's why they drafted Trey Lance. But yeah, I mean, this guy has continued. I think what I would say about him, and I thought this the other day, I'm watching Kyler thinking this, like, and you've talked about this forever. What you are in year 3 is not necessarily who you'll be in year 8. You have to sometimes guys get better. And even if you're limited by your skills that prevent you from becoming Patrick, like Kirk Cousins can never be Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how else to say it other than he has gotten better. Now, he might say, no, I've been this guy the whole time. Whatever. He has gotten better. Jimmy Garoppolo has not gotten better.
We both had the same thought texting this morning before we even hopped on to record this. Because they just played Seattle, it's just the thing you do. You watch the last game kind of over and over, right? I would imagine Kyle. Now, the Jimmy thing happened to him. They got traded him. They couldn't say no at the time when they got offered. They were going to sign Kirk Cousins. But I could imagine if you're Kyle sitting there watching Kirk Cousins, even if you're not necessarily mad at anyone specifically, like your GM or your organization, I could see him being a little mad today. Like, I fucking knew it. And here's the other thing. If they would have ended up with Cousins, overall, his money isn't that crazy when you factor in now how productive he is. And they would have had a lot more first-round picks. Now, it's impossible to play this Monday morning quarterback. It's just so much stuff has happened. But the fact remains, if Jimmy Garoppolo never comes about, Kirk Cousins is on this team, and they still have a ton of first-round picks. Because the elephant in the room, once Trey comes in to be the full-time starter, is like, that fucker guy's got to be good. You know, he can't be 20 to 32. I'd say worst case, he's got to be pretty quickly 10 to 15 range, right? With the pretty clear understanding and we should be able to see, like, okay, there's a lot of shit there to keep getting better.
The one thing you might be able to get a little back that you can't get right now is you might be able to spend a little more money somewhere else if Trey Lance is your quarterback.
Well, you're going to be able to.
Yeah. But does it really change where the 49ers would be today, even if they'd had Kirk Cousins? Does it make them a Super Bowl contender?
Well, they would be way better. They would have beat the Green Bay Packers if he was their quarterback, not Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, he's a much better passer right now than Jimmy. You agree with that?
Especially throwing the ball. We see him throw the ball down the field a ton, which is the thing we thought, like, his arm's not that strong. But he's hitting Stephon Diggs, and now he's hitting Justin Jefferson down the field, so it's strong enough.
To me, he would be a guy. I get a lot of people DMing me. Actually, happened today. I think it's because of Dak. And they say, can your arm improve? And I'd say historically, if you just look at all the quarterbacks, no. Your arm is your arm. Like, you don't, it's like a baseball pitcher. No one throws 93 at 27 years old, and then at 32, they're throwing 99.
They do after Tommy John.
That doesn't happen. But most of those guys were throwing hard before, right? They just might throw a little harder. I did have the thought watching him, if he was a guy that, let's say, threw 92 5 years ago, is he throwing 94 now? Because he's throwing some darts.
He does throw darts.
He doesn't look like he has a weak arm when I watched that game against Seattle. That was my takeaway. Like, I don't see a weak-armed quarterback. I don't see, Herbert or Allen, but I see a guy that arm strength, when you watch him play, doesn't come up in your mind. Like, I'd like a little more. Like, it's fine. Sometimes with Jimmy, like, especially Kirk Cousins' deep ball, which is clearly improved, that to me is the separating factor. Like, if Jimmy just had that, the Niners would be fine.
Gustavo on YouTube says Kirk throws too many interceptions. I'm with you. I think the biggest, because it's hard to compare him to Jimmy because he's played so much more football than Garoppolo's played. But I think what you just said is the separating factor. Is he throws
five double-digit interception seasons? Like, he's had some seasons where
it's a lot for a quarterback that's not really that dynamic, even though his offense is.
He does throw high. He's 29, 25, 27, 30, 26, 35. So it's not like he's throwing 22 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Here's the one thing. I say this all the time about picks. I can live with a pick if I get on the other end, right, a bunch of touchdowns. Right. I can live with a pick a game if you're going to throw 4 touchdowns. Not ideal, but if you told me.
He did have a Jimmy. Did you see the fumble that Kirk Cousins had in the Seattle game?
The crazy thing is I watched condensed twice, but it's always when I'm doing other shit, so I'm kind of watching.
He kind of coming out of the pocket. It happens. But it was kind of a, oh my God, did that just happen type of play. But yeah, this is why we talk about Trey, because this is.
Would you live every game with a quarterback that was their ratio is 3-1? Do you know what that would equal?
So it would be 17 interceptions this year.
51 touchdowns.
51 touchdowns, yeah. You would, because what was Jameis, 1-1 when he led the league in touchdowns?
Yeah, like 32-31 or something.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think they were like 7-9. Remember, they weren't. It's not like they were a 2-win team. They were competitive.
Yeah,
you would take 51 touchdowns without a heart because it's impossible to throw.
What's the NFL record? 52, 53
touchdowns?
Yeah,
I think it's 55.
55.
That's a lot. Because when you look at a guy's stat sheet, right, a game log historically, even Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady to get to 40, you're going to have a couple games where you're just hitting one. Now that you still might win that game because you run for 2 or 3 touchdowns with different running backs, but if you get 3 passing touchdowns a game,
yeah, I mean, do you win every playoff game in which you go 3-1? 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Do you win the Super Bowl, the conference championship game?
Well, if your quarterback's throwing 3 touchdowns a game, even if it's a pick, I do think you're.
But because you will play in some games where the other quarterback throws 3 touchdowns and no picks, right?
Tom Brady has more passing touchdowns than anyone else in NFL history, by the way. Someone said he's not that far away from 100,000 yards. I guess he's like close to 80.
Yeah, because they showed that on a broadcast the other day. Maybe it was the game, the Bucs-Rams game. Because whatever the graphic they showed, Aikman was like, I can't even believe what I'm looking at. So maybe that's what it was.
You think he gets to 100? I was like, no way. And then I was like,
20,000 more yards. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Well, no. Right? How many seasons is that?
Well, he's going to pass Drew Brees this weekend. So he's got 882.91. Brees has 83.58. So Tom will pass him this week against the Patriots. By the end of this season, 14 more games. He might be at 85,000 yards by the end of the season. So he'd need like 3 really good seasons.
3 more, but he hasn't, even if he's at 85, he's never thrown for 5,000.
Yeah. So he'd probably need 3.5 really high level seasons.
He threw for 48 back in 07. That seems too much.
You know what's crazy is right now, like Rodgers is 37. He has 51,000 yards. He is 30,000 yards behind Aaron Rodgers. Now he's 7 years, right, younger, but Jesus. Peyton Manning, who was in the league and started immediately, what was he in the league in 98 and Tom didn't come in and didn't play till 2001, is 10,000 yards behind him right now. Tom's numbers are going to just look, even if he goes 2 more years, I just think he'll be unassailable.
Unassailable. That's a great word.
You want to hear a sneaky name on the top? Flacco's in the top 20 of all time.
Were you about to say Kerry Collins?
I was about to say Kerry Collins, yeah.
It's the second Kerry Collins reference today.
Matty Ice top 10.
Matty Ice. Yeah, see, it's... Vikrant on YouTube says, if Trey Lance's floor isn't significantly lower than Jimmy, the question changes from why to why not. In other words, if Trey Lance's floor is not, why not play him if he's not going? If his floor is not much lower than Jimmy, are we sure as pro Trey Lance here? But my take Sunday after that Packer game was, would Trey Lance have been able to do some of the things that were required of Jimmy in that game? And you could argue, well, if Trey Lance is in there and you can throw the ball down the field, you don't need a final second comeback for that game, right? But what I keep going back to, John, is Kyle Shanahan wants to play Trey Lance. He wants to. He drafted him. He's wanted to play him every step of the way, and he's not playing him. Why? Because he favors Jimmy? No.
The thing that I've been told is they're not as comfortable. Kind of the same thing coming out with the Justin Fields. His understanding of the other team. And when I say that, the ability to... Were you telling me the other day someone was like talking about a quarterback and was like, he just struggles sometimes to understand things at the line of scrimmage. And it's like, well, fucking part of playing quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's not... You could make a play call. Like I would imagine Trey Lance for most of the play calls, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. he knows their playbook, and like if you call any play, he knows where all the wide receivers are. When you hear I think you really feel it like with the Mannings when they talk. Well, when you snap the ball, it's not just about what my guys are doing. It's like, what are their coverages? Eli was like, well, some of these teams run, half the field, they run cover 2. The other half, they run quarters. One half, they run man. The other half, they run zone. It's a lot going on. And Eli's like, the thing that fucks you up as a quarterback, and I mean, when he says this, Eli played for like 15 years as a starter, is you don't get a rhythm. You're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to see this. I don't know if I'm going to see that. And that's after having all the reps, all the film reps, all the game reps. Are we sure that Trey would know what was going on the other side against these defensive coordinators? Like even Ken Norton is a guy that, hell, around here got made fun of when he was the Raiders defensive coordinator. How long has Ken Norton, from George Seifert to Pete Carroll, when he was with Del Rio, like I would say he knows a lot more about NFL football than Trey Lance, to just throw some different things at him that could throw Trey Lance off, where it might throw Jimmy Garoppolo off, it might throw Aaron Rodgers off. But at least they know right away, oh, this is what we do when we see that on the next play. Yeah. Where Trey was like, holy fuck, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the play of the Eagles game, right, where Debo lined up on the wrong side and Jimmy knew what to do, and they were able to adjust for it.
Was that the big play down the middle of the field that he hit and Debo took it, I think? Yeah.
So there are things that happen, but on the flip side of that, like, young guys who play early, part of it is their mentals. Part of it is they have physical ability that can overcome inexperience. Maybe not fully overcome it, but help close the gap on it, right? When Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback of the 49ers going to the Super Bowl, like he had a physical ability that in some ways made up for his lack of experience and the things he didn't know how to do, things he didn't know how to see. Now that offense was different, right? But like that's part of the question here. It's not just
isn't Lamar a good example of that right now? Like when shit hits the fan, sometimes he can just take off and get a first down.
Yeah, and now I feel like Lamar knows everything that's happening too, and he's like, I think he's getting better. Lamar Jackson's getting better.
One thing that I was told by someone on the sideline with Lamar Jackson, his recall and understanding of the other offense, even when he fucks up, he knows what he screwed up against the coverage. Like I think his football mind, they've created a football savant. I think sometimes he struggles to execute it because he's not a naturally accurate passer, but they do not believe with the Ravens it's ever because he doesn't understand what to do against quarters coverage, right? It just sometimes he just can't make the throw or he gets a little fast, but he knows what he's supposed to do.
I think he's getting better because he makes throws that only 4 other people in the NFL can make.
Yeah.
Right. But so the question becomes then like, okay,
but the only way to learn is by playing.
Yeah. And what's your goal? So yeah, your floor might be lower in some ways than Jimmy's, but can you make up for that with other things? Can you make up for it with your big arm? And it requires more of it makes Kyle's job harder, right? Because you've got to it requires more help and more adjustment from you. And you got to protect him in a game where your margins are thin and he might make mistakes, but Jimmy makes mistakes. So do you get enough? Because what is your goal here? Is your goal to win a championship? Is your goal to go to the playoffs? Of course, that's their goal. Do they look like a Super Bowl team right now? No, they do not. Do they look like a playoff team right now? That's what they've got. They got to win some games to be a playoff team here. There's a long season to go, and they got to fix some things. But he might be able to do some of the things that make you a playoff team, just to be unique, be dynamic. I'm not saying he must start. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying if there are things he doesn't know that Jimmy knows, he might be able to make up for that area where he lacks with some of the other stuff that he has.
Their offense the last 2 weeks is not playoff level. They will not be able to beat the good teams the way they've played the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I feel pretty confident saying that. Their defense, just like last year, can be hit or miss, but I still think it's okay. It's not as good as last year already, but it's still better than a lot of shitty defenses because they're physical and they tackle. And that, to me, is half the battle. If you can just make open field tackles, that's one thing the Niners have been really good at, open field tackles. So if you could just open field tackle and get some decent pass rush here and there, that's a good enough defense. It is predicated on the offense. And it's clear that they're not going to be Mahomes or Herbert or Carr level, but you got to be more explosive than you've been, especially because the argument is not like, well, they just had a couple more wide receivers and a good tight end. Because most people, what would Andy Reid do? He just fucking pass, throw. And I think that's, we talked about it on Sunday night. I get their bread and butter is the pass game is predicated off the run game. Like the run game comes first. Well, you got to have second pitches when all your running backs are on the field and you're forcing Kyle Juszczyk to be basically your starting running back. Then it's like, you're going to have to depend on the pass game a little bit. And I think, and then your pass game, for a good example, watching the Vikings, with Cook out, they're so explosive in the pass game, it forces everyone back, right? And that's the thing the Mannings have really talked a lot about the last couple of weeks is like when you place these good quarterbacks, they're like, I dare you to run it. I dare you to run it. See this soft shell? They do. Why would you ever do a soft shell against the Niners? One thing I heard Staley say yesterday on with Pop and Lund is like, and I think I saw Kittle say this too, get tweeted into my timeline. He's like, the Packers just had this unreal game plan against our run scheme. Like they fucked up our edges. It's like, well, yeah, they didn't feel your pass game's a threat. And then you're not winning in one-on-one situations. Like if you are going to take away one thing, like if you're going to take away my deep passing game, that's been the knock right now on the Chiefs offense is like, we're not going to let you just go bombs away. We'll dare you to run it. Well, last week Clyde was solid. Best game as a pro. Good enough.
Yeah, but the Chargers aren't that good. The Chargers can't stop the run. Like Josh Jacobs on one leg might have 120 yards.
But most teams, if you have just a solid, an offensive line and a good running back, can't stop the run consistently. If you're going to play your safeties way back, you'll be able to just be productive in the run game. And I think the Niners, with fully healthy, they would slam it down people's throat. But now with these 7 practice squad guys,
Kyle would kill for Alexander Madison.
That guy runs his ass off. You put that guy, if you combine Boise State and Fresno State over the years, you'd have a fucking Power 5 powerhouse.
You'd have Matthews, Jeremy McNichols. He's a Boise guy, right?
Yep.
Avery. Was Avery the guy with the knee issues?
Yeah.
They had another guy.
They had sweet dudes.
Ian Johnson?
You take Ian Johnson?
The proposer?
My question would be Derek Carr, Hayner, Kellen Moore. I feel pretty confident with Kellen, in a big game.
Oh.
College. Pros, Derek.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough.
Kellen was beating SEC teams.
Kellen was good.
He was.
Kellen was good.
I think he's one of the greatest college players I've ever. People love saying that, right? Like Tebow, I know he's not a great pro, greatest college player ever. For me, it's Reggie Bush or Kellen Moore. Like those guys were just unstoppable. Not pros, but in college.
I'd put McCaffrey in that conversation. College McCaffrey in that conversation.
That's fine.
But Reggie's number one for me. Did Richard Sherman sign with the Bucs yet, or is that just a workout?
I think
I saw it
might have
was
been
a workout.
Fly out to get a gauge type deal.
Don't you think the Niners have a gauge on him at this point? But if he, for a team that needs cornerbacks, you'd think they'd work him out.
Or you think they just sign him? Do you think it's crazy to just sign him?
Yeah, it feels kind of crazy.
Because you can't have
to
Josh
just sign him
Norman
without seeing him. Is that what you're saying?
So the Bucs are just going to sign him, and you wouldn't when you desperately need corners?
No, I'm saying it, but the Bucs are working him out. They're not just. Are you suggesting call him and sign him like Josh Norman style?
Yeah, I mean, call him. You could. All he has to do is walk. I guess Richard probably going to look like he's skinny, normal in shape guy. You want to put him through a workout to get his cardiovascular. But maybe they passed up on that when they signed Josh Norman. Like they had the opportunity to do this 2 weeks ago, and they went with Josh Norman.
Right.
So you could say that maybe they just decided that they were out of the Richard Sherman business, which to me is a little surprising, because they're clearly pretty desperate. Like I would have said, if you would have said before I even thought about Josh Norman, are they more likely to re-sign Richard Sherman or sign Josh Norman? I'd be like, yeah, they're going to re-sign Richard Sherman before they sign Josh Norman. Boom. They signed fucking Josh Norman, and he's a starting quarterback, and now he's going to come back after spending 2 nights in the hospital. And hell, they probably love him.
They need him back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, he's looked okay.
I thought so too. He just
get some PIs.
I know, but he just brings some, first of all, experience, right? Which
he's
counts
tough.
for something. He's tough.
Maybe they just think he's a little better right now than Richard was. To me, they're very similar players at this point in time. But once they signed Josh Norman, maybe if Josh Norman had a serious injury, I know he did have a serious injury, but an injury that was going to knock him out, like he was going to have to go on IR, minimum miss 8 weeks.
Like a sprained ankle, John.
Like a sprained ankle, yeah, he would have gone out. But you just had, internal bleeding, no big deal day to day. I saw Mike Silver. I like Mike, but he's like, and this is why, puts in perspective what these gladiators actually go through. Like, Mike, I'd say most people, the thing that we give the most reverence to is like how crazy the game is. Like most people sitting on their couch, like, damn, that's a violent game.
I think we do, and I still think we don't really understand.
Yeah, I just
like I was thinking about HGH today. Like we hate it with baseball, partly because you break records with HGH in baseball, right? In football, it's just about surviving and extending your career beyond 3 years. Not that anything happened today with HGH, but right, it's. I think. Which is, I guess, the point I'm making actually supports the point you made, which is that we understand that it's pretty nuts.
Well, remember when Ray Lewis got a bunch of heat? I think it was the Super Bowl year. It felt like HGH and deer antler spray, and really it felt like deer antler spray was HGH. Never quite got to the bottom of that. He was not getting shit for like, I think he's taking this to get stronger. He had torn his pec and he came back, and they're like, how did he do that? Well, that's pretty nuts. Obviously, he had some enhancements. I feel like a lot of people in football use that for recovery more than like they're already huge.
That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. And you're right. It's in basketball. It's recovery.
They used to push back though in baseball and say it's not just the strength; it's their energy.
And I think they're right. I think baseball's underrated for it's like if you've ever just like I've covered a baseball team every day, and that's exhausting.
I know. Sounds exhausting.
Like I was watching the Yankees.
I get exhausted trying to watch baseball during the season. Like I'm just going to bed.
I will say this. John Morosi did this video. It's like a 5.5 minute video about did you see it? I retweeted it. The Dodgers-Giants rivalry. It's like a 5 minute just music and 130 years and like all these big moments and Steve Finley's grand slam. And it's just Brian Johnson's home run. It's very cool. Because he's basically saying like, what's happening right now is in the history of an incredible rivalry, one of the greatest things that ever happened. Basically a season-long divisional race where it's like a game or two for a lot of the year. It's pretty incredible.
I went out with a girl that dated the dude, I forget his name, that gave up the home run to Finley. I mean, that was game 162 to win the division. Walk-off grand slam. He played for the Yankees, too. He was like
Is that the guy with like the little goatee? Did he have the little goatee?
No, maybe. I mean, he had like a.
It wasn't
7,
Tim
8
Worrell.
No.
I thought it was the guy with the little Steve Finley home run.
Yeah, I mean, it was Meatball. He did play for the Yankees,
Who?
He's married now. The reliever.
Guy. Yeah. Anyway, maybe someone in the chat will know his name. I don't want to research it right now. I thought it was the little like a weird kind of funny goatee guy. But
that home run.
Anyway, there was, I don't know if you saw this, but a judge allowed Al Jazeera. Did you see this story?
No.
The news network to move forward with a discovery period in their claims that Peyton Manning hired a investigative firm to get a guy that was the key source in an Al Jazeera report several years ago that Peyton uses HGH. That guy recanted his sourcing and said, no, I take it back. I made it all up. Peyton doesn't.
Wasn't the claim like his wife was using it?
That she was receiving the packages in her name.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to Peyton. And that case, I guess Al Jazeera is like fought in court because they're saying this was an act. They never got sued.
Peyton sued him?
No, that's right. That's the part I can't quite figure.
Probably just didn't even care.
Somebody said Steve Klein. Was that the pitcher? Steve Klein?
No. What year would that have been? 06?
Yeah. No, it would have been. I don't know. You can keep looking. Wayne Franklin, somebody said?
Yeah, that's him.
Wayne Franklin. That is not the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, it was him. Well, again, short stint.
Oh, was Wayne Franklin kind of skinny?
Yeah, I think a lefty reliever, lefty on lefty matchup just didn't go well.
He did have kind of a goatee thing.
Maybe you're right.
But honestly, this is not the guy. It's I'm kind of right, but not. It's not what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I'm
That's
better
not who I was
looking
thinking
than
of. I gotta go back and do some research on who I was thinking of. So
Yeah.
Bucks are last in passing defense. 338. They've allowed 9 passing touchdowns, tied for most in the NFL with the Colts and the Packers.
Well, they have played Dak
They have.
and Stafford.
Yep. What was the other game they played?
That's a good question. I feel like I blank out a lot now on stuff like that I used to be able to recall pretty fast. But I feel like there's so many games going. It's hard.
It's like you've watched 9 games in 30 minutes.
They played the Falcons. So Matt Ryan threw 3 garbage time touchdowns, I'm sure, in that game.
Yeah, they scored 25 points in that game. John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about ButcherBox. That's actually not what they're called. ButcherBox.com/ham. ButcherBox.com/ham. Where right now you get free ground beef for life when you sign up. ButcherBox.com/ham.
Free ground beef for life. You go. They have different curated box options. We've both been sent from chickens to ribeyes to ribs. Remember those ribs we got sent a while back?
I do remember those ribs.
Those are fantastic. Hell, we got lobster tail in the last one. Pork, bacon, ton of bacon, but free beef for life, free ground beef for life every time that you order a box moving forward. Right now, if you go to butcherbox.com/ham, think about that. Omelets, tacos, burgers, parties. And you're just like, where do you get all this beef? Like, I get it free for life. No big deal. How about you? You buy that? You go to the store and get this? Hey, I get it free for life. That's what you tell all your friends. I get it free for life.
Each box has 9 to 11 pounds of meat of your choosing. You get to pick it. So your options are things like 100% grass-fed and finished beef, free-range organic chicken, humanely raised pork, wild-caught lobster tails, wild-caught salmon, sugar-free bacon. There's no better feeling than knowing that you can skip the grocery store because there's a variety of ButcherBox meat already waiting in yo freezer. You might need a second freezer.
You might. Butcherbox.com/ham. Go get yourself some ButcherBox.
Butcherbox.com/ham. New members get free ground beef for life for the life of your membership. Butcherbox.com.
Life/ham.
Podcast also brought to you by Sleep Number. Sleepnumber.com/ham, John. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
You know the key to a good night's sleep, once you own a Sleep Number bed, sleepnumber.com/ham, is going to bed at the same time, is being routine-oriented. You don't need to be Tom Brady, but some nights if you're like really sleepy and you go to bed at 9, the next night you're watching a movie or whatever, you go to bed at 11:45, throws off your sleep. Especially during the weekdays, you want to get a consistent sleep. Don't stay up too late. Dim the lights, right? Don't keep that screen.
Light a candle.
I remember Chip Kelly. Remember he had like Navy SEAL on his staff. I sat next to the guy at the combine one time, and this is when people started acting weird to me. But I was like, I'm going to pick this guy's brain if I'm going to get fired. And I remember him vividly saying, like, the mistake everyone makes, they stare at their phone right before bed, and it like puts off these sensors in your brain. You think it's light, you think it's day. It's like a dog. You wake up a dog, they don't know the time. Well, humans do. Stay away from the iPad in bed, which I break all the time. As well, I put a TV in there now, but my phone right by my eyes. Sleepnumber.com/ham. Save up to $900 on a Sleep Number 360. $900 savings, no big deal. Thank us later. Guy went silent. You're muted. Hold up. I guess you can still hear me, huh? I could have just kept going, keeping everyone alive on the chat. Let's interact with the people. Guys muted. We lost Guy. We did. Guy was playing Warzone and forgot to switch back. I think he did. Saw Haberman on TV this week. I did too. Called Cal Washington. I think he's got Cal Washington State this week. I'll just probably be drinking and taking edibles at my house while he's working. Guy, what the fuck? I don't know. He's just having technical difficulties. End the show. We will not end the show. Can't hear you. You're muted.
How about now?
I can hear you now.
All right.
Do you drink Tito's every day? Try not to. What's your favorite strain? Sativa, indica. Those are my favorite strains.
You don't want to come to the game and be my spotter?
The games, I wish if Cal was a powerhouse, I'd go to the game. Because they do, when they're good, they do have good crowds.
You've been to a few of those games, right?
I went to 2 years ago. I went to watch them play Arizona State. Who actually has a pretty good. Do you like the Sun Devils this week? Against the Bruins?
No.
Is that game at the Rose Bowl?
That game is at the Rose Bowl.
You don't like the Sun Devils at all?
No.
You don't think they're good?
Wrong, but
aren't they pretty physical defense?
Mm-hmm.
Can they score?
I think they make more. I think UCLA will play a cleaner game. Not that UCLA didn't play great against Stanford this week.
No, they didn't.
So I'm not saying ASU can't win, but I think UCLA is more likely to play a button-down game, as I like to say.
You know what I love? Every year there's a team that's like Iowa State was this. Like, could Iowa State
win the national title?
And they're 2-2. I mean, they just lost to like K-State.
Yeah, they got their ass kicked by Iowa. Then they went and lost to Baylor.
Yeah. Now, Baylor is, I think, 4-0 in the top 25, but...
Yeah. They're not bad.
You're not quite Fresno State, who's 19, I think.
Chowder71 says Raiders 4-0 next Tuesday. See, that's another one. I think they beat the Chargers. Although, Mike...
I wouldn't go that far yet.
Mike Williams is not getting his flowers, John.
Mike Williams is sweet.
Give Mike Williams his flowers. Guess who's a free agent after this year?
I had the thought watching that game because Cooper Kupp went off and Herbert. Yeah. Was Herbert
Cooper Kupp and Herbert?
Well, I'm just saying, like, both those guys to me, I just went to their rivals page. Herbert had 3 stars. Did Herbert commit really early in his career to Oregon? Like he did not. He had no Division I offers.
Well, Nevada was his first offer.
On his rivals page, it was like Northern Arizona, Montana State. Those were the only things.
Nevada was his first offer, and then on the plane to Reno, he got an Oregon. Oregon was like, all right. It was one of those like, all right, if Nevada's going to offer him, we'll offer him. You just offer. And he's from Eugene. I don't think he did any of the camps or any of that stuff.
Cooper Kupp had 0 stars.
Because he started right away as a freshman. Like, it was clear, like, this guy.
Yeah. Well, Cooper Kupp was even more extreme than him. No offers, and he ended. I mean, Herbert did play at Oregon.
Started as a true freshman.
Yeah, started as a true freshman. Over the last decade, the best program on the West Coast, even better in Boise. Like they're the number 1 program out west. So it's like he's not some little engine that could. Cooper Kupp, 0 stars, no offers. I actually had someone DM me that said they played him in high school, and he was on a high school team that I think they must have been really good. He said this guy was just fucking unreal. But smaller
Where's he
school
from?
Guy. I think the Washington area.
Oh, okay.
But then I was thinking Herbert playing with his 2 guys. Was like, who are his 2 best receivers? I don't know. Keenan Allen, who told Nick Saban, yeah, I'm going to turn down your scholarship because you won't offer my little brother, and I'm going to go to Cal. And at the time, Cal had an 8-year run where they were recruiting a bunch of sweet guys, so it wasn't that nuts. And then Mike Williams, where did he go? I don't know. He was just Deshaun's number 1 wide receiver when they were beating Alabama.
Cal had a stretch where they were probably the most talented team in the Pac-12 for a couple of years.
Yeah, because he was recruiting at such a high level. But Clemson with Mike Williams, I vividly remember Mike Williams making some of those jump ball catches with Deshaun against Alabama. So if Keenan was one of the highest recruited guys, like his senior year in high school, and the story I heard, Saban wanted him to play safety, and they refused. They would not do the package deal with Maynard. And Tedford's like, yeah, you can play wide receiver and we'll take your little guy. And they did, and he ended up playing way too much. But, like, Keenan was an elite blue chip. Mike was every bit as big and went to a program that was a powerhouse.
Yeah.
So it's like those are his 2 wide receivers.
I know. and Cooper Kupp's teammate was Kendrick Bourne.
Well, I think that Eastern Washington team, I don't know if they won the Natty, but they got to the Natty.
I don't think they won it either.
But they were...
Their quarterback was good, too.
Wasn't the little guy that went to Oregon?
No, not Vernon Adams. It was the guy that transferred to Washington State.
Gardner Minshew?
No, not that guy. He never played at Washington State.
Do you think some of those guys, when they're on like the sweetest D1AA team, like, I can do it at the next level, and like kind of want to go check it out, and then they get there, like, damn, that's a little harder.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't get Weber State every week? You don't get the UC Davis Aggies? No, you get Oregon. Next week you get Iowa.
Marty says yes, Vernon Adams. I thought there was another quarterback.
I thought Vernon Adams, when he transferred to Oregon, his whole thing was he had put up historic numbers, and it turns out he was throwing to those 2 guys, right?
Who was the other quarterback? Yeah, maybe that's true, but they had
Someone also said they had Egbako, the dude on the Niners, the pass rusher, Ebakam. Is he on the Niners?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was an Eastern Washington guy. I mean, they were for like 3 straight years winning like 13 games a year.
Gage Gubrud.
I don't recognize that name. Isn't Eastern Washington's former head coach, who was Cal's offensive coordinator, Wilcox, he became the Cal Poly head coach, and they hired Musgrave to take his job, right?
Bo Baldwin.
Yeah. Who was obviously had a really potent offense. But it turns out they
Cal
had
Poly
really
killing
good.
it right now, or no?
No.
I saw the Fresno State score. John, I was thinking I would throw something off you. Not that we have to like do a bit here and like make it a segment, but it was kind of a heat check. A take I had that I'm not sure. Maybe it's too hot, and maybe I'm just searching for a unique take, and I'm wrong. But it's about. Oh, I just got your text that said you are muted. I got a take about Zach Wilson. Tell me if this is too hot or not. It might not all be Zach Wilson's fault. In fact, it's not all Zach Wilson's fault. This is not all Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is the starting quarterback for the New York Jets with a first-time head coach who's a defensive coach. So his head coach can't help him, right? Robert Saleh can't help him.
Well, he can be he's a positive mentor. He's a big positive.
He can give him pep talks, but he can't help him once the game starts. Yeah. His offensive coordinator is Matt LaFleur, who we have no idea if he's any good as an offensive coordinator. No clue. He never called plays before. His team has an offensive line that is less than desirable. The right guard, who I saw, Duke Manyweather, did this thing. I guess he's given up the second most pressures of any right guard in the NFL. That guy, I read a story in which he said that Zach Wilson needs to get rid of the ball quicker, which I'm sure is true, but like, I don't know, is that the guy who needs to be saying it? Zach Wilson needs to get rid of the ball quicker. So he's not exactly getting unconditional support from his teammates. And then on top of that,
well, that guy's probably getting screamed at uncontrollably by the offensive line coach.
But I'm not sure that's the ideal situation for the rookie quarterback in the New York media for your right guard to be telling everybody you need to get rid of the ball quicker.
True.
And his quarterback room can't help him. His quarterback room, the other quarterback in the quarterback room is a guy named Mike White, who is in his 4th year in the NFL and has never thrown an NFL pass in his previous 3 years. Okay? So he has as little support. I mean, this is as bad as it can get. Now, maybe Robert Saleh turns out to be a great coach. But if you just wrote all that on paper, first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator, bad offensive line, and no veteran quarterback presence in the quarterback room, you'd say that's a recipe for failure.
Yeah, I don't think you're crazy. I would say the number one thing, because every year you're going to have an offensive coordinator that's never called plays, right? That gets hired for a job. That's going to happen probably for the end of time, because a lot of coaches, I'd say it's going to happen more and more, because a lot of these offensive coordinators are going to get hired from staffs where their head coach is the play caller, because that feels pretty prevalent. It feels more prevalent right now than it ever has been. Do you agree with that? And those guys are going to get hired from Andy, Sean Payton, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and they're just not going to be the play caller.
Yeah, we've seen multiple Eagles Doug Peterson guys get hired.
Yes, it's going to happen. I would say the craziest fucking thing, because they drafted multiple offensive linemen in the last couple of years, and the left tackle got carted off the field a couple weeks ago. Like, that's You can't control an injury. To not have, you could have argued, like, listen, Alex, we will pay you $7 million to be the third string quarterback and just help this guy out and just teach him. Or hell, hey, the Bears, we'll give you a 7th round pick. Do you know that the third biggest cap charge on the Bears is Nick Foles? It's Allen Robinson, Khalil Mack, Nick Foles.
I think if Dalton, like once Dalton's healthy, is Dalton back yet? Maybe he gets traded finally.
Dalton gets traded?
No, Foles.
Well, but he was, but like before, like in the training camp, when it's clear like Fields is going to be their number 2. Wouldn't it make sense if you're the Jets and you have some wiggle room with money, with a young quarterback, a young team? Like, hey guys, I would say, I saw Alex, I didn't see him say this. I didn't realize he's going to these Monday night games and like is talking on the field, like with Steve Young before the game.
Oh.
He was at the game last night. And they asked him, because, you know, the topic came up about the rookie quarterbacks weekend. 2 touchdowns. I don't know if that factors in Trey's rushing touchdown. I'm going to assume it does. Because Zach Wilson did not throw 1. Fields did not throw 1. Mack threw 1.
Lawrence might have.
Yeah, so maybe it doesn't.
2.
Maybe it doesn't factor in.
Yeah.
I think Lawrence threw 1. Mack threw 1. Mack threw a little lollipop. It was a pretty cool play by Kendrick Bourne. He kind of. So it doesn't factor in Trey Lance's, but 7 interceptions. It was a bloodbath for them all, right? They were really pretty bad. Mack has Brian Hoyer, Trevor Lawrence. We can make
Josh
fun
McDaniel
and Josh McDaniels. We make fun of C.J. Beathard. C.J. Beathard's been in the league now going on 5 years. He's been on a Super Bowl team. He's been an active starting quarterback. Like, he can talk to a guy.
Played in a complicated offense for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue what they did to Zach Wilson in that quarterback room is malpractice.
That's what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that he is, if he's going to succeed, he's not going to get his best shot with the way they've.
I don't see how you couldn't justify his rookie year when you knew you were going to be terrible, not overpaying for, like, you know, an Andy Dalton type just to have around. An Alex.
And you said it, Nick Foles.
But
Now,
didn't you tell me he wants to start? I mean, it feels like he's telling
Nick
everybody
Foles?
he wants to start. Yeah.
Yeah, of course he wants to start. And maybe enough time, enough things happen, and maybe they do end up trading him somewhere where he could start because guys get hurt. But yeah, that's all. That was my Zach Wilson heat check.
Yeah, my best source that's just consistently, I would say he's right when I ask him about a player 99.7% of the time.
Oh my God, Bulky?
No. This guy's nails. Works for the Chiefs.
Somebody
actually.
Get him a job.
Yeah, he's got a good
They're
job.
not listening to him the last few drafts, I'll tell you that.
He's got a good job. That he thought that Zach Wilson, and I think a lot of people think about Zach Wilson, they're not the biggest Zach Wilson guys. And I think he is one of the more polarizing players over the last several years of, some people, Chris Sims, I don't even know, like, does Drew Brees even count when you make some bold, Drew Brees made a bold statement, like, but you've been in the NFL, like.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the tape, then I would count it.
But he probably hasn't, Like, to me, Sims, that to me is, I know he does the work. I know he's locked in. Like, he thought really highly of him. And I think there were people in the league that thought he was going to be a star. There were other people that were like, I think he was like my 4th or 5th quarterback. Like, guys that said he's definitely more physically gifted than Mac, but I think Mac's a better player. And he might just be a little overwhelmed. And to not have the help, that to me that's unacceptable. If I had a rookie quarterback, I have to have a guy. To me, the baseline would be like a CJ Beathard. But I have to at minimum have a guy who started games, who's smart and is a good character guy. Ideally, like Andy Dalton is probably the best, right? Like that type guy. If you can get him at 33 years old. I don't really know Flacco with Jalen. I don't know. Flacco's personality never seemed like the ideal guy, but like Dalton actually feels like the perfect guy.
Except Dalton just got paid $10 million to be a starter, so he.
No, I know. I'm just saying that player though.
Yeah. No, and maybe that is where he goes next year. It's why when I watch Zach Wilson is he running around playing backyard football, playground football. Maybe it's partly him.
Well, he's got a little playground to him.
No doubt, but maybe we should just can we not just get like some bubble screens or something? Like, let's just get the ball out of his hands. Let's help him.
Well, the Jets coaching staff was first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator, first-time special teams coach. All their coordinators and head coach had never been in that role.
First time GM, second year GM?
He'd been a GM now, I think, a couple years. And, he ran the drafts in Philly. So he's experienced. But I think part of it, when you're in his position, when you want to empower the coach, you just kind of let him pick a staff, right? You can't. It's a hard position, right? You're
my question is, did they empower the coach or did they hire a coach they can control?
They did. I mean, I suck. I don't even know what knocking on wood does. Greg Knapp was a guy who'd been a quarterback coach for a long period of time, and he died.
Yeah. That's significant.
I think that maybe in their mind, that was their backup quarterback. I mean, you and I had been talking about Greg Knapp, it feels like, for a decade plus. You always see him when you watch his team, and he was like a quarterback guy.
Yeah.
So that's...
Good point.
I just thought of that.
They tried.
But
yeah, no, it's a good point. That's
I would do both, though. I would say, well, you still couldn't find, some older player. I was watching the Charger game, and they go to the side, and Chase Daniel's there.
Still there?
He has value.
Is he in uniform?
He's in uni, yeah.
Is Easton Stick in uniform?
I think they kept all three.
How about, did you see the end of the Monday night game when Peyton's like, I watched all this Cooper Rush tape just in case? Why? Because he wanted them to put Cooper Rush in on like the last series.
Yeah, they kept three. And I wonder if they're, because why would you keep three with Herbert? I wonder if they're just like, there's something to be said about having an older quarterback around, even with both of the guys.
Yeah, and they might really like Easton Stick for the future, but right now, this second, he's not good enough. Like Chase is better than him.
I even think Easton might be the backup.
Oh. But if my question would be, if Herbert got hurt in like a game that was tied at 30 with 8 minutes left, who's coming in that game?
Well, whenever anyone does the deep dives on Chase Daniel's actual play, it's pretty ugly, right? His best role is really on the sideline with the hat, being a mentor.
Hype man. He's like the guy with the wrapper that just swings the white towel and just says, we the best.
Yeah.
That's
like I just went to the Chargers too deep. Yeah, I mean, they have Chase as number 2, so maybe you're right.
But I've seen situations where it's dependent on the game situation. Like you got two quarterbacks, right? If you're down, if Justin Herbert gets hurt in the third quarter and the score is Raiders 24, Chargers 10, that might be Easton Stick, right? We need dynamic plays. If it's the reverse, Herbert gets hurt with a 14-point lead, it might be Chase Daniel. Sometimes it can be situation dependent.
Yeah.
That game, I can't wait. That Monday night game, this is one of the best matchups I think you could create. Just right now, week 4 of the NFL season. Like as hyped as I am for Patriots Bucks, the chances that game is better than Chargers Raiders is low.
I would agree.
Like Chargers Raiders is legitimately one of the best. I was watching the Rams.
I think the 4 games between Mahomes, Herbert, and Carr, that little 4-game stretch, whenever those 4 teams
stretch.
Or those 3 teams play each other is fantastic. That game was sweet. Watching just Herbert and Mahomes come on the field, on and off the field. I think it's 4, right?
Well, you play each of you play twice.
Oh yeah, because 6 total games. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I watched the Rams and thought, I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. Deshaun could have scored. Did I say this already, or did I say this to you off the air?
No, you said it to me off the air.
Could have scored another touchdown in that game, but Stafford's arm got hit. Remember that ball, and it came up short, and Deshaun didn't know where to look, but he had his man beat at like the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
And then early in the game, there was a PI. It should have been a PI. Didn't get called. He had his man beat down the middle.
If he would have caught that, do you think he would have ran down the goal line before he went in?
Stafford's arm might not be strong enough for Deshaun still. No, I'm kidding. But
I feel like Deshaun, and this may be unfair to him, doesn't even train. He just looks the same and just shows up and runs like a 4.3. Like it is a lot of times like pretty nuts he's still that fast. Because he is dramatically faster than everyone else. Even when he ran and then McVay ran, it looked like McVay was going so slow relative to Deshaun.
Yeah. Deshaun looks effortless. That's part of it, right?
Yeah.
He's just so smooth.
I feel like McVay's very happy right now.
Yeah, did you see he told Peter King he had a massive headache after the game, maybe because he was losing his mind the whole time? But to me they look I think like if I had to pick right now who's going to win the Super Bowl, I'd say the Rams. Stafford looks good.
Yeah, he looks sweet. Now he's he passed his first test, and he's clearly going to have a good season.
Absolutely.
There will be a lot of pressure, like being the hunted in the playoffs, assuming they are in position to get the number 1 seed.
For
Like
sure.
here's what I know: the Niners aren't as good as them right now.
No, they're not.
They're not.
But the other thing for them is now they've beaten the Bucks, so the Bucks have to have a better record than the Rams, in order if they end up right. Like now, unless if the Rams win 9 games, it doesn't matter. But if they're close to each other in the battle for the 1 seed, the Rams have the tiebreaker. So the Bucks have to be 1 game better than the Rams.
You think 14-3 gets you the 1 seed?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Because the Bucks, I mean, are the Panthers and the Saints is going to be? That's not 4-0 for the Bucks. I could see them losing one of those 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, they're to me when you're.
But the Rams are going to lose a division game, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're beatable. I'm not saying they're impenetrable. Super Bowl's at SoFi this year. What was the word you used earlier? Unassailable.
Oh yeah,
Unassailable and impenetrable. The Super
you
Bowl's at SoFi
you go through
this
the dictionary before you call a game just to pull out a couple words.
year. No, because it's hard to execute that without it feeling forced.
Yeah.
But the Super Bowl's at SoFi this year. So as I tweeted today, Raiders, Rams, SoFi Stadium. What happens? Super Bowl.
What's a corporate crowd?
A lot of Raider fans among the Fortune 500 CEOs. So
Is that a fact?
I don't know, but probably some sneaky ones.
Well, I bet at one point in time, all the kids that grew up in the 70s, once they become 50, if you said what teams are they fans of, it'd been the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Raiders. It's just generational. Like what are the fans in the 80s? Like the Bears, the Niners, and the Giants, right?
Yeah.
In the 90s, it'd be the Cowboys, the Niners, the Packers.
I'm just sorry. That Rams Raiders Super Bowl at SoFi was just such a pandering tweet by me today.
I'd have a hard time.
It was too easy.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't feel quite as confident the Raiders are going to go in and beat this team. I think they're pretty good. I think the Raiders are too.
No. Look, don't mistake my prediction for like great confidence.
I'm with you. It's no Peyton and Eli. Like that's.
Are they we already did the Raiders, but it was such a great the Ravens. They just clearly planned it all ahead of time. But I just specifically them talking about Herbert.
I know. That's
this
why I want to
game
hear
just might
Peyton
be
talk
so
about
much
Herbert.
fun.
I know.
So if they come back week 7, there's another good Monday night game they're going to miss. Actually,
Well, they had to do the Lions Packers. That sucks.
yeah, that does suck.
Who made this schedule? Peyton?
No, he wouldn't want to do Lions. Why would he do Lions Pack? He doesn't want that.
I think he clearly had some impact on this schedule.
Yeah, but I just wonder if they have other things going on.
Yeah,
like-
they have lives.
ESPN would take them for every game, right?
If they said, "Hey, can you give
They're going
us
to miss Colts Ravens?
when's that?" Colts don't have a win.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I'm surprised Peyton, that's week 5. Peyton not doing the Colts Monday night game?
He feels a little. It's weird. He's a Colt, but he feels a little more Bronco-y now.
I know. But he likes Irsay.
Yeah. You see Irsay at a party.
Giants at Chiefs is a Monday night game, by the way. Ooh.
Oh my God! Did you see Irsay's tweet Saturday night of him singing?
Go ahead, share your thoughts.
You know what it was? I guess he owns
charity event or
like a music studio or something in Nashville. So obviously they're playing the Titans. So he had a big party. So he hosted a big party.
Gotcha.
And then
He's a musician, right?
Yeah, and then the boys were jamming. I think he's a guitarist. He's not a singer because his voice is terrible.
My favorite part of that video was he's up there singing, and you just hear the crowd. The crowd's like, "Woo! Woo!" It's like people are like, "Well, we got to cheer."
Did you see how into it he was? Like he thinks he is one of the true songbirds of his time. He does love music. I will give him that. Like I don't think he's faking it. Like he loves music.
And look, we all love singing despite bad voices. So,
Guy, he doesn't sing. He talks. It was terrible.
He's at Springsteen's one of his big influences.
Yeah, but Springsteen can sing.
It's a lot of talking, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of talking. I guess the good news is if we got to get Chiefs Giants, if we get the Mannings for that game, so their rotation of guests.
Yeah, I want Peyton with Mahomes. I want to hear some takes.
Yeah, it's true. Even if he's slicing and diced him, that could actually be great. And Eli kind of making fun of the Giants, but it might be hard to resist.
I would imagine he's on a $1 million retainer, keeps him a little quiet, right?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
I could see Eli pulling a Greg Papa after the Raiders used to play really shitty. He's like, "Where's Eli?" He's like, "He didn't show." He's like, "I am not saying
well.
a bad word."
Not 100% today.
You're taking the day off. Team
But see, the Giants would say the opposite. The Giants would say, "Eli, we're paying you $1 million to be on during that broadcast and defend us."
It's a hard position.
This money don't come free.
No, it's a hard position to be in.
That parking space comes with a price.
It's a hard position to be in. I'm telling you guys, I believe Joe Judge is the guy. And Eli's personality, he takes some just subtle. He makes fun of people, right? Yeah. It'd be hard for him just to be like, everything's great, guys. He wouldn't be able to keep a straight face.
Yeah.
The key would you'd have to just make fun of the other team, right? Like last night, I felt like he was just in his element. 2 teams that he's played. How many times has he played those 2 teams?
I'd forgotten that he opened Jerry World with a win.
Oh, it was Giants.
Giants beat him on a last-second field goal.
The first night in that stadium?
Yeah.
Crazy thing is the story about the 9-year-old flipping him off. I doubt he's making that up. I mean, the kid might have been like 14. He might bring down the age a little bit, but I bet it was a younger kid flipping him off. He's like, what the hell?
He definitely probably got the most hate. If you just said last 20 years, who's gotten the most hate in that stadium, Eli'd be at the top of the list.
Yeah, Eli and
Romo. Yeah. All right. We'll be back with another pod coming up next week, but on Thursday, plus a mailbag. Don't forget, we always appreciate it if you hit that like button on your way out as we finish up the YouTube, and share it. Share it with your friends. We tell people, people are always looking for good podcasts. Recommend it. If you're going to recommend Ted Lasso, recommend Haberman and Milkoff.
I got through 2 episodes, the second episode of the season of Ted Lasso. I stopped.
I have not gotten past episode 3. It's been a while.
It just doesn't do. It's
not
fine.
doing it for you. Yeah. It's the show we all need, John. All right. Final comment from Marty on the way out the door. He's speaking as a Niner person, can't count on Goff throwing us the ball 3 times a game anymore. Nope. It's the dawn of a new day.
No. I think Stafford's ball are going to go right over Lenore's head.
And there goes the shot. All right. We'll deal with that another day. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody.